Hello, welcome back to the Young Fan Podcast. I hope you're well, I hope you're safe, and welcome to a really interesting episode of the podcast. Today, we're going to be delving deep into 4 really exciting games across League One. Like I said, I say it every week, but I'm not lying. I could pick any game, because in League One, this season, and for a few seasons now, but especially this season, we have seen some absolutely brilliant games of football week in, week out, and every single match week. So it's difficult to pinpoint the games. I pinpointed 4 games. I cannot wait to get straight into it. Of course, I do have to make a little apology, because yesterday we didn't do a match reaction for the Oxford Portsmouth game. I was away doing something else, which is a bit of a shame, but it was an amazing game. I went to watch the game. It was an incredible atmosphere, an incredible game of football, and I don't normally delve deep into the Oxford games in these sort of roundup videos on a Sunday, because normally we do them on a Saturday, specifically for the Oxford games. However, because I didn't do one yesterday, I'll definitely be looking into the Oxford game today, especially this one, because like I said, a really exciting game to talk about, and like I said, I was a bit frustrated I couldn't do one, so I do apologise for that, but hopefully you forgive me and we can get straight into this episode of the podcast. The support on the last episode, by the way, is I think 1.3 thousand views reacting to every single League One club's January transfer window and putting it in a tier list. Thank you so much for the support. If you haven't checked it out, please do check that out, and most importantly as well, please subscribe to the channel. I believe over 70% of the people that watch the content aren't subscribed. Like I said, please do hit that subscribe button. You're silly if you don't do so, and that's coming from me, who makes the content, so I must be right. Hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and hit the notification bell as well, because that way you won't miss an episode of the podcast. Like I said, thank you so much for the support recently. It's been absolutely phenomenal, and let's just get straight into it. Enough of the admin, let's get straight into it. So we're starting off Ipswich against Gillingham then. Gillingham, how are they getting on? How are Ipswich getting on going into this game and looking at the league standings? Ipswich are in 9th and trying to, really try and put a shout in for a late playoff push. And like I said, they really can do so. They are, like I said, a few points away from 6th spot. But like I said, they're trying to make a real push for the players and make sure they at least try and make a good account of themselves in this league season. Because like I said, it started quite poorly under Paul Cook. He lost his job. Kieran McKenna's now come in as manager. So like I said, I think he said going into this, and we're taking this job, let's make the most, or try our best to make the most of this season. Let's make sure the season does not just end quite flat. Let's try and make a push. I think they are doing that. As for Gillingham, they're not doing brilliantly. They are still in the relegation zone. A defeat yesterday as well. That's not going the way they would have wanted to. And Neil Harris has got a real job in his hands now as he takes under that job. I believe he took it on last week. So I believe he got a draw, if that's right, a draw last week. And then obviously a defeat this week. It's not going quite as he planned. Like I said, I think it's definitely more of a long-term thing at Gillingham. Can he keep them up? That'll be the first job. But it's not going to be easy at all. 22 points are currently on there. 8 points adrift in the relegation zone. They really did start getting some results. And yesterday, that result really didn't come. Ipswich, looking at the momentum graph, which I do like looking at that attacking momentum graph. Gillingham, they started the game quite well. They had a really good start to this game. And then Ipswich had a fantastic patch of attacking football. And interesting, they didn't actually score a goal and they didn't make the most of that attacking play, but they looked really dominant in those attacking areas. And then the end of the second half, the end of the first half, it was all Gillingham. So the first part of the first half, the second part of the second half of the first half as well, both ends of that half really Gillingham dominated base, and that's really quite interesting. But the core middle section of that half was definitely down to Ipswich. The second half though, really quite even, but still you'd say Gillingham. To be honest, Gillingham in the second half, they would have hoped to get something from it. And if you'd say who's going to get a goal in each half, you probably would say Ipswich definitely in the first half that a goal. And Gillingham, you may say that maybe deserved to get one in that second half. Well, actually, it was the complete opposite of that. Gillingham didn't get any goals. And interestingly, Ipswich's goal came in the second half. They didn't have a lot of the ball at all. And Gillingham, like I said, had some real patch in that second half to make the most of it. But Ipswich today, I should say yesterday, were really quite good at taking those chances. We look at those big chances as well. Ipswich dominated the ball, although attacking-wise, Gillingham maybe looked a little bit more threatening. We talk about the possession and keeping hold of the ball. Ipswich did that brilliantly, 63% of the ball. But like I said, Gillingham with more shots. You can see that with that attacking momentum. You could tell they could have more shots in the game. 13 shots in the game, no big chances, which will be a little bit of a frustration. And for Ipswich, they did have a big chance. Of course, they scored it as well. They hit the woodwork twice, Gillingham, as well. So they really did come quite close. And although it doesn't say they have big chances, hitting the woodwork twice to me sounds like they certainly did have chances in the game, and they're quite unlucky not to hit the back of the net. But ultimately, Ipswich do come away from this game winning it 1-0. Connor Chaplin who got the goal in that almost sort of midfield right sort of role, if you like to see his sort of average position there on the right hand side. Got a goal, of course. Really, really good performance from Colin Chaplin, and I think he'll be really, really happy with himself there. 7.5 service score rating, just behind the front two that I think Kieran McKenna is really, really enjoying to have here, like the three at the back with the four across the middle, and then one man behind the two strikers up front. I think it's going really, really well. He really likes that formation. Interestingly, Gillingham matched it completely as well. So that was going to make a really quite tactical and interesting tactical battle. But ultimately, Gillingham, they will be a little bit upset about that result. They maybe could have got a little bit more from it. But Ipswich prevailed. They got the 3 points and they win the game 1-0. So good result for Ipswich. Not a good one for Gillingham. If they want to continue and try and get themselves out of the bottom four, then they need to sort of get some results on the board as quickly as possible. And Neil Harris has got a real job's worth to try and do that. But I hope for Gillingham they are able to do it. But it's not going to be easy. It's going to be quite a difficult game if they're going to get anything from it. And they're going to have a batch of difficult games as we head through into the next part of this season. So, next then we've got Charlton against AFC Wimbledon. Let's see what happened in this game. You can see here straight away, looking at that attacking momentum graph. See 2-2 at half-time as well, interestingly. And Charlton got the one goal in the second half to win it 3-2. Sounds like a really interesting game. But we look at that attacking momentum graph, you can probably see it was quite an interesting game as well. A lot of spikes in the game. Now, to be honest, Charlton probably had the better spikes. They probably had more of that attacking momentum. Would you expect that from the home side? Yes, you probably would. Would you get to have more considering they are the home side? Yes, you probably would. Did they take their chances really well? Yes, they did. We look at AFC Wimbledon, who strike first. You can see the start of the game was definitely all AFC Wimbledon, but then sort of Charlton got back into the game, got a real sort of had a real go going forward, then got their 2 goals, 2-1, then pegged back straight away 2-2 for Wimbledon when they had their spike. And in the second half, like I said, a lot of things going on. Definitely more Charlton, definitely more green than there was blue. Looking at that graph there, definitely more Charlton than AFC Wimbledon. AFC did have their chances, but Charlton did have more. But Charlton got their goal, the biggest spike of that second half, in fact, the biggest spike of the game, and won it 3-2. We look at the stats as well. 58% possession, to Charlton as well. So they did dominate the ball, which is really quite interesting. But then we hear really quite fascinating. 13 shots for Morecambe, for AFC Wimbledon in this game as well. Really quite close to Charlton's 12. And then we look at these big chances. Well, that's even more interesting. 3 big chances and 2 big chances across both sides as well. So 5 big chances across the game, but 3-2, really quite equal amount of big chances. Both of these sides really could have got something from the game, and unfortunately for AFC Wimbledon, they couldn't do that, and for Charlton, they did get those 3 points. But like I said, this really could have gone either way. We look at the standings, 11th for Charlton. They're now 3 games on the trot with 3 wins. For AFC Wimbledon, this dodgy form continues. A draw, of course, was the result before yesterday's game in which they lost. But like I said, they are 1 point above that relegation zone. So they need to try and get some points as quickly as possible. But like I said, it's so tight. 3 points, you're looking at 16th. At 9 points, you're looking at Charlton's position. So it's really quite tight. And for Wimbledon, they are really looking to sort of get themselves out of this mess. But it doesn't look like, I say mess, that's a bit harsh, get themselves out of trouble, or potential trouble if you like. I wouldn't say it's a mess yet. The form's not looking great, but I wouldn't say it's a mess. But for Charlton now, can they continue to push on and maybe create or try and force a late push for the playoffs? I don't think it. I think that might be a slight stretch too far, but there's no harm, of course, in trying, and getting these wins is only going to help that. But yeah, a really quite interesting game. Could have gone either way. AFC Wimbledon probably a little bit disappointed when we look back at those chances and those moments across the game. But ultimately, Charlton do win the game. It finishes 3-2. And it's not a bad result for Charlton at all. Really important 3 points. For AFC Wimbledon, like I said, probably a little bit disappointed by it because they did, of course, lead in the game. But Charlton are a very good side. So for Charlton, they'll probably definitely take that. What should we talk about next then? Let's go to Oxford United against Portsmouth. Look at this, by the way. Look at this attacking momentum graph. This is attacking momentum graph that really summed the game up quite well. I mean, we'll go into probably more detail about this game than we normally do. And more than we normally do. But an absolutely brilliant result for Oxford yesterday. And I remember, and if I was going to do a match reaction, something I would say straight away is this side is doing things, this Oxford United side is doing things that it hasn't done in previous seasons. And we've got this mentality and unity that Carl Robinson has installed into these players that ensures they don't give up. They really just play for everything, really. They attempt to win every 50-50, and they're doing that really well at the moment. It doesn't matter who they come up against at the moment. They're putting in fantastic performances. Very, very critical usually about performances against these top six sides. I know Portsmouth aren't in the top six and aren't in great form, but they're definitely they're a huge football club. And these are the games in which again, there's no doubt they've got very, very good players. Portsmouth, they've got a really good starting 11 with a really, really good manager. And this game really could have gone either way. And like I said, we were 2-1 down at one point from an Oxford perspective, and that was a real concern. But the second half performance I thought was absolutely phenomenal from Oxford. We look at that momentum graph. Portsmouth, of course, they had their moments in the game, and interestingly, both their spikes in the game did come from them actually, scoring goals, which is quite interesting. But other than those two, those two spikes in the game, they didn't create much else. They didn't, get a chance to score a goal. For Oxford, though, such a dominant performance, and of course, there was a red card in there. Was it a red card? In my opinion, it wasn't. It didn't look like a red card. I've watched it back a few times. It did not look like a red card. The referee made that decision, though. And again, it's very, very opinion-based. I think we're in a world now where refereeing is completely opinion-based. And you will look at a challenge or look at a decision in multiple different ways. For that referee at that particular moment, he decided it was a red card. The man got sent off. And Oxford then had a massive advantage. But we went 2-1 down with that massive advantage. But it was in that sort of the end of the game, the last 10 minutes of it. That was a moment to remember. Two beautiful goals. That Cameron Brannagan strike was absolutely phenomenal, and then that absolutely brilliant Nathan Holland strike as well. Both goals outside the penalty area. Beautiful, beautiful goals, and it's moments of magic that won us that game. Like I said, we weren't brilliant, but that second half I thought we were really, really good. In fact, I'd probably say we weren't brilliant across the 90. That first half a little bit sloppy, a few individual mistakes and individual errors cost us, but definitely in that second half I thought we were brilliant. And I'd say that's a performance now that I think and these are the performances you can sort of take into the next game. Sheffield Wednesday winning that game 3-2. That was sort of very, very similar to yesterday's game, not just because of the scoreline, but definitely because of the mentality and because of the work rate these players put in and playing for the badge. I feel like should definitely be a necessity and be a minimum expectation. But unfortunately, in this day and age, it doesn't always happen. But Carl Robinson has installed that into the players, and they work for absolutely everything. And I think that's something that I don't think it is, like I said, anymore. I don't think anymore that is an absolute minimum expectation. But under Carl Robinson and the way that he wants to play and the success that he wants to bring to Oxford United, that's something that he wants to install. And it's not all Carl Robinson. He's got a fantastic coaching staff, we believe, behind the scenes. And like I said, it's not just him. It's also the players. I thought the players were absolutely brilliant yesterday. And in moments in the game, from going 2-1 down, coming from behind is something that recently, the Carl Robinson's reign, we just haven't been that great at. But again, yesterday, Portsmouth, backs against the wall in different aspects of it. Maybe not backs against the walls in terms of the men on the pitch. Of course, they did have one less player. So their backs definitely were against the ball more than Oxford. But what I mean by that is moments in the game where we were 2-1 down, for example. That was definitely a moment where we had to make these right decisions, and the tactics has to be spot on. The decisions off the pitch as well as on them had to be correct. And in the end, that was a brilliant performance and a brilliant win. Like I said, I've spoken about the red card. I think there was a challenge in the game that was more of a red card than the one that actually ended up with the player getting dismissed. So that's quite interesting. But generally, so proud of Oxford United. A brilliant day, a fantastic win. Like I said, looking at that attacking graph, so dominated by Oxford. Did it help that we had an extra man? Of course it did. We dominated possession, 67% possession, and I can feel quite sorry for Portsmouth fans because ultimately you go 1-0, you go one man down. It's so difficult to get into a game, especially when you go one man down in the first half, 16 minutes into a game, just over a quarter of an hour into a game. You go down to 10 men. That's not easy at all. You just got that real momentum from equalising as well to make it 1-1. Then that happens. That Portsmouth perspective is going to be really quite disappointing. Like I said, not easy to keep hold of the ball, not easy to dominate possession, and they found that quite difficult, as you can imagine, with one less man, and Oxford had 76% of it. Like I said, they didn't create a lot of chances, really. Portsmouth when it comes to shots, but in terms of big chances, they actually had more than Oxford. 28 total shots for Oxford, 2 big chances, three shots for Portsmouth in the entire game, all of which were on target. 3 big chances. So they were very, very good at creating chances when they came forward. And you can see that, look at that attacking momentum graph. They didn't have many spikes in the game. But when they did have those spikes in the game, they were very, very good and got their goal. So you can see why that stat isn't too much of a surprise. Look at that league table. 53 points for Oxford after 30 games played. Only 3 points off second, of course, are Wigan. Rotherham are slowly looking to sort of, I think, run away with it slightly. So hopefully a few sides can sort of slow them down. Maybe Wigan. But, it's looking quite interesting. Rotherham have a game in hand on Oxford, Sunderland and MK
Dons, and they've gone, like I said, on 62 points. So they could go on and, I think, win the league, and I think that's looking quite likely. But for Oxford, I don't think ever winning the league was an expectation or something that we were so desperate for. Getting into the playoffs was an expectation, I think, and making sure that if we do get there, we make a really good account of ourselves. Do I think we're in a better position? I was listening to it on the radio. Do I think we're in a better position to where we are going into this playoff if we do go there and compared to the others? I definitely think we are. We're beating sides in the top 6. We're beating big clubs. We're beating big sides, and we're coming from difficult positions in games, going 2-1 down, doing things a little bit different off the pitch, on the pitch. Are we taking that into consideration when we talk about being well prepared for another playoff or another potential playoff game or set of fixtures? And I think we probably are. I look at this formation as well. We did something a little bit different. We had 3 at the back with wing backs in the game. Of course, Kieran Brown, who came in to make his debut, he made his first debut for the club. I mean, his first debut. Normally, debuts are the first game. It'd be difficult to have a second debut. But a really, really different style of play, or not necessarily style of play, but different formation, which did sort of affect the style of play slightly. But yeah, we had to tactically make a few decisions. Oxford at moments where it didn't quite go to plan. We were 2-1 down. We're changing a little bit. Would I be a little bit critical of Kieran Brown? I probably would. There was a moment in the game where they scored, and it was the Ronan Curtis goal. It was the second goal of the game. He sort of ran with his man instead of tracking where he should have been, and sort of that left centre-back spot, and it allowed Ronan Curtis to have all the space and then the room to take the shot. So would I be a little bit critical on that? Yes, maybe. The first goal was a little bit of a bunch of individual errors, really. But that second goal, I think Kieran Brown might be a little bit disappointed with it. I thought generally, like I said, Cameron Brannagan, phenomenal game. Mark Sykes, brilliant game. Ryan Williams really did good on that right wing-back spot, going forward, causing problems. Steve Seddon, again, struggled slightly. I don't know what's going on with Steve Seddon. He needs to get his confidence back up because, like I said, start of the season, brilliant. This point in the season, struggling slightly. Defensively, Luke McNally got a goal as well, which would be really, really quite a huge confidence boost for Luke McNally. But like I said, a huge confidence boost for the whole team, really. Absolutely splendid, absolutely brilliant. And I think Oxford United will be so pleased with that. It finishes Oxford United 2, Portsmouth 2. Up the Yellows, a really, really good performance in that game. And then finally, where else but to go the Stadium of Light, where, of course, no manager appointed yet. Roy Keane, heavily linked with the job, believed to be interviewed for the role. Of course, no manager appointed as of yet. Disaster at the Stadium of Light. I think I saw 40,000 fans go to watch Sunderland. Huge club, no doubt about it. But a disaster yesterday, an absolute disaster. Doncaster, who are rock bottom of the league, 22 points after 30 games. Like I said, same as Gillingham, 8 points away from safety. Disaster. Absolute disaster. I'm going to do something that I don't normally do on the podcast, which is actually watch the highlights. Now, I'm going to have to make sure I edit this bit out because obviously I don't want to show the goals for copyright reasons. But I want to watch the goals back and I want to sort of discuss things a little bit about it. And I maybe should have done it for the Oxford game. And I might have done it in the past, maybe. But I want to talk about this game. I want to react to it sort of as I'm watching the game as well. But for Sunderland, it's a genuine disaster. A horrible, horrible result. And, I mean, there's a real level of concern at Sunderland. I mean, the first goal comes here. It's a quite simple ball forward. I mean, again, Sunderland not really looking great in that midfield area. A little bit too easy. One ball over the top, absolutely splits the defenders in half, and then a really, really good finish, cool, composed finish in the end. But like I said, that midfield was ran way too easily, and that ball over the top was way too simple as well. Split the defenders in half straight away. The next highlight here is on his left-hand side. He cuts inside. Gillingham, again, like I can see here, Gillingham having the biggest highlights of the game. Sunderland, at the moment, can't get out of it. A strike from the Doncaster lad, and then it hits the post as well from that attack there, Sunderland. And then another chance here, a corner for Gillingham. Cleared away, not brilliantly, sort of. And again, really good ball back into the penalty area. Bit of a scrap. Overhead kicks. I mean, that's a brilliant finish. Absolutely brilliant finish. I mean, Sunderland don't look all over. I mean, what is that defending in the penalty area? Get the ball out, boys. Second balls, defend the corner. You don't need to get it back in the penalty area. I mean, it's an absolutely brilliant finish. Not much you can do about that. But ultimately, you could do a lot about him being in that position. The goalkeeper probably can't do anything about it. But it should not have been allowed back into the penalty area and that chance to happen either way. So that's going to be a real sense of disappointment. And the defending from Sunderland so far looks awful. And I know at Sunderland there's been a lot of talk about the formation in terms of how do we play 5 at the back, do we play 4 at the back. A lot of fans think that the 4 at the back is the way forward. It's a good header in the end. Is that Ross Stewart who scored? I think, is a goal being given? It hasn't been given. He looked like he was going to score and go off and celebrate, but didn't go over the line. There'd be a disappointment there. But like I said, Gillingham Sunderland, do they go with the 4 at the back? Do they go with the 5 at the back? How do they approach these sort of games? It's too difficult. So it is quite difficult then to make that sort of decision. But a lot of their big results are coming at 5 at the back. Now, the game that ultimately got Lee Johnson sacked was when he played a 4 at the back against Bolton. They got absolutely obliterated. But some of his best games was with that 5 at the back. And like I said, this role here, I don't know who is on the caretaker role for this game, but he certainly didn't get it right in terms of the way that they were set up. Not great at all. Goalkeeper's going to be a little bit disappointed with Sunderland's goal. Maybe done a little bit better with it. A ball into the penalty area, sort of saved, and they followed up really quite well. Jermaine Defoe, of course, back in a Sunderland shirt as well, so that's a bit of a romantic reunion. He came on in the game as well, but couldn't, of course, get them the result that he would have wanted on his debut back at the football club. But, I think about it, for Sunderland, it's really quite worrying, and there really is some concern at the club, because they need to put a manager as quickly as possible. I did a video on it. I said what is going on at Sunderland and the reaction to him getting sacked and what next for Sunderland. But this is not the result they would have wanted. I asked the question in that episode, are they going to get a bounce? Are they going to get a big new caretaker bounce, even if the new manager hasn't been appointed? The answer to that question at the moment is definitely not. They're definitely not getting a caretaker bounce. And again, there'll be a real sense of worry in this Sunderland camp. Because, like I said, look at that momentum graph. I mean, Sunderland, yes, dominated the whole of that second half. I mean, they were so dominant and probably should have got something from the game. But we look at these chances as well. Yeah, they dominated possession. They dominated shots. 2 big chances, the exact same as Gillingham. So again, that's something quite interesting. They dominated possession, loads and loads more shots compared to Doncaster, but only 2 big chances created. Why is that? Why are they not being able to sort of convert those shots and that possession into really big chances and talk about then having a really good chance of getting something from the game? They should be beating Doncaster, who are bottom of the league at home. There is no excuse for that. And Sunderland, again, will be looking at this game, reflecting on this game, and I think first and foremost going, we need to bring someone into the football club in terms of a manager, and we need to make sure that we get this appointment right, because otherwise we could waste the season here. We could really quite waste the season. There'll be a real there's going to have to be some serious conversations at Sunderland, and I think they will probably be looking at this thinking, we need to make some decisions really quickly. But again, the players are going to have to take accountability. It was a really bad performance yesterday, and they should have won the game. But for Sunderland, it doesn't get much better, does it? And they're going to have to go again. They are still, of course, in the playoffs. Like I said here, they're 4th in the league. Doncaster 24th in the league. But you should be winning these sort of games. They're not in great form now. 2 defeats on the bounce. And like I said, they can really easily slip outside the playoffs if they continue on this bad form. It all comes down to that next appointment. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the roundup across League One. Some really exciting games to delve deep into today. I really have enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it as well, please make sure you show your support by leaving a like and subscribing. It really would mean the world. We're on the road to 800 subscribers now, so please be part of the journey and hit that subscribe button. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you all very soon. See you in a bit.